All right. So welcome to the 91st episode of the Productized podcast, also the first episode of 2022. This is the podcast where innovators, geeks, creators, and entrepreneurs come to discuss impactful ideas. And our mission is to inspire people to impactful action. My name is André Marquet. I'm your host. And today I'm talking with Justyna, and she's an intersectional, talented young woman. Justyna sort of shaped her career in a way that combines her major interests, which are art, technology, design, writing, activism, both environmental and social, mental health, and well-being. She calls herself a storyteller due to the lack of a proper term, and she's also describing what she does and where she's heading in her professional path. She sees a strong value in smart volunteering and multidisciplinary approach towards careers. Hi, Justyna. How are you?
Hi, everyone. I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So I didn't pronounce your surname, but I'm letting our audience to understand your full name as you pronounce it in Polish, I guess. So if you want to give us the
Yeah,
pleasure.
of course. I know it's complicated, so the way you pronounce it is Cyrankiewicz. That's my surname.
All right. And are you currently in Poland right now?
Yes, not for long anymore, but yes.
Very well. Where are you heading next?
Well, I'm planning to move to Dominican Republic for a couple
Mhm.
of months.
Nice. Yeah, I've actually heard that you have been traveling a lot. Actually, I've seen on your Instagram feed that you have been to Lisbon recently and Portugal. Where have you been here?
We're in Portugal.
Yeah, other than,
Uh,
I guess.
well, just Lisbon and Ericeira,
Hmm. All right. How did
not
how
so
did that
far.
go? Did it go? Did you like it? Did you enjoy
Um,
yourself?
I mean, I went there to sort of explore it as a potential move-in location because
Hmm.
I was considering various options before choosing Dominican Republic at the end. And what can I say about it? I liked it, that's for sure, and it's beautiful. It wasn't my first time in Portugal as well. But I just didn't feel like it's the right place for me at this moment in my life.
Hmm. So the República Dominicana is the place to go right now.
That's how I feel, yes.
Why is that? What is attractive to you in Dominican Republic that
Yeah.
makes you feel this is the moment in your life to go there?
Well, I've had this idea of moving somewhere after I graduate from the university for a couple of years now, but I've never fully understood why is that I want to move out, what I want to get out of it, other than just experiencing different culture, different lifestyle. And when I visited Dominican Republic a couple of months ago, I realized what I was seeking, and that was a sense of a strong community and being surrounded with people that are aligned with my values and seek similar things in their lives and want to grow as people, as themselves as well, as much as I want to. And this is something I feel like I found out there. I met those people, I felt like I belonged there, which was also pretty unique to me. And I just felt like this is the place where I should go to.
Hmm. Yeah. So you've been living out of Poland also for a while. You've been here in Portugal and other places. Which places have you actually visited in this digital nomadic tour or pre-tour?
Um, well, I can't say I've actually implemented what is usually understood as digital nomad lifestyle because I've been traveling, but I've only once moved out of Poland. So there's been some countries, mostly in Europe. I've only once been outside of Europe, which was New York City. And yes, I've been working while I've been traveling, but it was more of an on and off travels rather than making it my full-time lifestyle, which is going to happen now.
Mm-hmm. So, one of the things that strikes me in what I understand from your career path is that it's very much linked to your interests and passions. But apart from work itself, can you tell us what those interests are? What are you actually spending your time on a daily basis?
Of course. Well, I think I can say I'm lucky enough to work in what I previously spent my free time on. So I've been reading a lot about personal development and building your career, mental health, arts, design, environment, new tech. I'm a little bit of a geek myself. So that's been something I've been learning a lot about anyway. And now this is a part of my job. But there are also things that are completely different from what I do as my daily job. And these are sort of my side hustles or hobbies, other hobbies. So I picked up ceramics some time ago. And I actually fell in love with it. And it was very important to me because I needed something that I would be passionate about, which wouldn't be my job. So I would feel free to explore it and have fun with it without this pressure to improve very fast and be really good at it, just having fun. And I think that's very important, at least to me, to have something like that aside of your job.
Are you having fun with ceramics so far?
Yes, yeah, very much. I love it. I really love it. And it lets me explore different ways of expressing myself. And I just feel like it sort of activates a different part of my brain, which is great.
Right. And you also seem to have like a dog. She's super quiet so far. Are
Yeah,
you
I
a
hope
dog?
she will stay like that. She's so sweet.
What's her names? You were telling me Sue,
Sue,
right? Sue.
SU, yeah.
Are you a dog lover?
Uh, I'm an animal lover, yes, in general, animals, but dogs for sure.
All right. And I also understand you have been photo modeling a little bit. And that's one of the dreams that lots of young girls have at a certain stage of their life. So is this something you have dreamt while as a teenager, or is this just some side activity you're doing in your life? How does it fit in your current activities, which are very eclectic?
Well, just a little correction here. I've been a fashion model, which is different photo modeling, and I've been a professional model, so signed with an agency for 3 years. I make this distinction because this is two different words, sort of similar but different rules. And
can you tell us the difference for people that don't know the difference?
Well, the main difference is that to be a fashion model, you need to meet very strict expectations of the looks of your body and the measurements. So you need to be tall, thin, and size 0, which is specific measurements in bust, waist, and hips. And for photo modeling, you don't need to be that tall. You can be different size. And you don't even need to be considered attractive or good looking as most of people would see it. what's the most important is that you know how to present yourself in front of camera, that you look good. So you need to be photogenic, not necessarily pretty. No, I'm of an opinion that everyone is beautiful, but in the standards of the industry, that's the difference.
Right. And and just getting back to the question, right? Is this something you have been looking for since you were very young, or is just developed by happenstance in your life?
Well, no, I've never wanted to become a model. I've had multiple opportunities, and I've been approached by agents when I was growing up, when I was a teenager, but I just always felt like I don't want to be perceived through my look, my appearance, solely, and it just didn't seem exciting to me. But at the end, I was presented with an opportunity at the time when I was sort of exploring, checking out how it really is, and just so I wouldn't, when I'm old, I wouldn't say, what if,
You
I
wouldn't
just wanted to,
regret not doing it.
yeah. So I wanted to see how it is. And I was contacted by an agency, and I signed up with them, and this is how it started. But yeah, it was very challenging journey. So
Right.
no,
Are
I
you
wouldn't.
are you still active?
No, I ended my contract with an agency, and if I do something in this world, it's only with my friends, and just to, I know, last time I did a photo shoot, it was for my friend who was kicking off fashion brand and needed a face for photos, so I wanted to help her out. And the photographer was my friend, so it was everything within the community of my friends. But I'm not looking to coming back to professional modeling unless this industry changes, which I don't think happens anytime.
Yeah, we could go into that direction, but one of the things that I understand you do is you have some causes, you have some activism, you also do some volunteering, modeling, so to say, for friends and so on. So what kind of activism, what kind of topics are you most involved with in terms of causes that make you embrace them, really?
Well, I describe it as environmental and social activism, which means that there's been periods when I've been more active in certain areas and less active in other areas. It's difficult to, do everything all at once. So I've been volunteering both in organizations and sort of doing it by myself, by organizing events or lectures and stuff like that. And it was in the fields of,
Organizing yourself, you have been the organizer?
yeah, I was sometimes producing an event solely by myself, just, one person group.
Right.
And yeah, it's been mostly around the topics of empowerment and economical injustice, poverty, lack of access to education, what else? Mental health as well. I've been also working with volunteering with an organization dedicated to help refugees. And when it comes to environment protection, that was mostly with TEDx. I've been organizing a lot of events that would educate the community about how an individual can protect at least the little environment around them, how they can contribute to the big movement of global environment protection. And
So you've been
yeah,
organizing TEDx events yourself, or you've
yes,
been active with the TEDx community?
both. Uh, so yes, I've been in TEDx. It's been with a group of other volunteers,
Mm-hmm.
but I was I sort of owned the strain of environment protection team. So I was organizing those events with people who wanted to help.
Mm-hmm.
And the events I organized myself were mostly about humanitarian aid and human rights.
Right. And, have you spoken? Because I understand you also have a talk, right?
Yes,
Where,
I was invited by a different TEDx community to speak at their event.
what was the name? TEDx what?
TEDx Youth Kazimierz. Yeah.
Okay. That,
Um,
that was in Poland,
in Krakow, in
in
Poland,
Krakow.
yes.
Mm-hmm. And what was the topic of your talk?
Mm, to put it short, I was talking about the difference between self-worth and self-belief, or self-confidence and self-belief, and how the latter can help you go through a lot of challenges in your life, both professional and personal, and
But
how to sort
there's a
of,
difference, right, between self-confidence and self-belief, which
that's what I
sometimes a little bit
think. Yeah,
subtle, and lots of people might think it's kind of the same, but it's not, right?
yeah,
Different.
yeah, I agree.
Um, so let's maybe move into your career, which has been quite impressive for your, still relatively young age. You did study in Poland and also in the UK, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
And why did you go there?
Well, I I remember when I was a kid, I would always dream about going to a really good university with this old library, dusty books,
Harry
wooden
Potter
line.
style.
Yeah. And I remember that even in high school, I've been going through rankings of the best universities in the world, and I would check how expensive it is to study there. What would I have to do to go there? What results of my education would I have to accomplish? Um, and very quickly, I realized that probably I can't afford to go to the best university in the world. I wanted to go to Stanford, and I even went to US Embassy to consult if I even have a chance to get there. When I presented them my CV and
Mm-hmm.
all of the things I've done during my school time, and they said that I actually can make it. So the financial part was the biggest, but I can't say the biggest because I still didn't apply, so I don't know if in the end I would be accepted. But because of the financial part, I didn't do it. But then I decided that, okay, so if I can't afford it, then I will go to the Polish university, which we are lucky to be able to study for free.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no tuition fee. But I will study hard, and I want to go on Erasmus to the best university I can get to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I was looking up universities that have contracts signed, Erasmus contracts signed with universities in Poland, with my university as well. And I found UCL, which is University College London. Um, and they didn't have a contract signed with my university, but they had a contract with another university in my city.
Mm-hmm.
So I reached out to them. I sent them my cover letter, my CV, and I told them how much I'd love to and dream to study at the university. And if I take care of it, would they be willing to take me in and sign a contract with my university? And they actually said yes, that I I'm a promising candidate for them and that they're willing to do this. So it took me a year to go through all of the bureaucracy and make all the
Oh,
paperwork. But in the end, they accepted me and I was able to study there for a year, which I'm really grateful for.
right. What did you study in Poland?
In Poland, it was arts and media management, and in UK, I decided to sort of ground this knowledge more, and it was mostly about economics, business management, and strategy.
Mhm. So you have like a very eclectic perspective of design, also from a business standpoint. So, what were your first steps in the workplace, in the marketplace? Was it starting in a company? Was it freelancing as a
Um,
designer?
well, the very, very first steps were when I was still in high school, and when I was 16, I think. Yeah, 16, I started working as a journalist for a local magazine,
Hmm.
and I was doing that for 3 years. And in the meantime, I self-taught how to design, which is also a funny story. So, and then after high school, I took a gap year before university,
Oh,
and
nice. You did a gap
mm,
year?
yeah, because I wanted to gain professional experience so that I can work while studying because I had to earn for my living. And I didn't want to do a job that wouldn't contribute toward developing my path of career. So I took a gap year and I got an internship at a Polish startup that was very, very small at the time.
Hmm.
And I became a graphic designer, copywriter, translator, and marketer all at once.
Like you
And
should
I
in a
was,
startup. And which
yeah,
startup is that?
well, it's cosmetic brand Body Boom. Now they actually sold it to a bigger company, so it's no longer a startup. Um, yeah, they grew a lot through the years.
Would you recommend young people, I don't know, 18, 17, like you were back then, to do a gap year? This because it's not so common, right?
Absolutely.
You do see more and more people doing gap year between uh, the bachelor's and the master's, or sometimes even after the master's before getting to the job market. But doing it at such a young age, I guess it's not for everyone, maybe. So why would you recommend it?
Well, I would say if someone has a very clear idea what they want to do, what they want to study already in high school, then I think it's fine to go and do it. But if someone is like me and I had absolutely no idea what I want to study, I initially was going to study psychology, which I'm also very interested in, but
Yeah,
that
I see.
wouldn't,
I saw that.
yeah, but it wouldn't lay down foundations for the work I'm doing now.
Hmm.
Um, or it would take me longer to get where I am now. So I would say that if someone is confused at any point in life, and if it's possible for them to take a gap year or a gap month or 2 months,
Yeah.
um,
Once you're an
I would
adult, I think they're
absolutely
calling it
recommend.
sabbatical, right? Which, but so even at the younger age, what you're saying is that if you know exactly what you want to study, that's fine. You can go to the university. But if you are in doubt, if you're not so sure, maybe doing a gap year, it's a good process. And did you do this gap year on your own terms? Did you have some help from any specific organization that helps you guide the gap year? How did you find this startup job? I'm really
Mhm.
curious to understand because I guess you were afraid, right? You were what, 17, 18, and you were doing
Mhm.
this. Maybe your parents were not super happy with the fact that you were doing a gap year instead of going to the university. So what was the thought process that helped you guide into this decision?
Well, I think that first of all, I was very much determined to gain the experience, the job experience that I wanted. And I had a very vague idea of what kind of job I want to try doing. Um, and no, I did it completely on my own terms, just sort of figuring out how to do it as I went. Um, and I just knew that I don't want to waste this year. I want to really work towards setting this foundation that will allow me to earn while studying later on. And so I think I just went on some online place, like a job advertisement platform.
Mhm.
And I created my CV. I learned how to do it. Like, now everything is on YouTube. I learned how to graphic design from YouTube, so
Right.
it's a free university.
It is.
Um, as
It's actually, you're actually, I think, the second guest saying that here. YouTube is a free university, right?
Yeah, it really is. You just
It really
have
is.
to have this willingness to learn. And first of all, admit that you don't know something and you need to seek how to do something. Um, and so, yeah, I learned how to do it. I think I used some free program to create my CD. And I started sending it out. And I remember that the recruitment process for the startup took them so long. I think it took them 2 months that I was already sure that they probably missed it. Like, I don't know, I had so much self-belief that I felt like they would probably take me, but maybe they missed it or they canceled the recruitment process. And
Mhm.
I started applying for other jobs that would let me earn while looking for another job. So I went to restaurants to apply to be a waitress, etc. And I remember that one day before my test day in a restaurant as a waitress, the startup guys reached out to me and they said that they invite me to the interview. Uh, and nothing was confirmed, but I already canceled on the restaurant and I went full on. I gained all the confidence I had. And yeah, and actually during the conversation at the interview, I said that I have a graphic design portfolio because that was a internship for, I think, social media assistant, something like that.
Yeah.
And I thought that, okay, this is easy. I use social media. I can probably do this. But now I know how wrong I was. But yeah, during the interview, I just said, like, mentioned that I also learned how to design and I have a portfolio and they wanted to see it. And, all of a sudden I became a main graphic designer for them, in-house graphic designer. So it was quite
While
surprising.
you were still learning to be a graphic designer.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that in the first week they gave me a project to do and I didn't know how to do it. So I was watching YouTube tutorials on my lap under the desk on the phone how to do it because I just didn't want to say that I don't know how because I really wanted to get a job after this internship. So, I really wanted to show them that this can-do attitude and that I am willing to learn and progress quickly, which I know later on they really appreciated.
Yeah, for sure. Can do. It's such a powerful. Um, I'm
Yeah,
not
can
really.
do or
Yeah,
fake
can
it till
do.
you make it,
Yeah, fake it until you make it. Not Tyranno style though, but with a certain purpose and actually, if you actually make it,
Yeah,
that's totally fine.
not to cheat on people, but to sort of make this leap over the things that you can learn quickly but don't know how to make it.
Right. Absolutely. So that's how you began working as a graphic designer. Eventually, you went to the university. You took the graphic design, um, and and once you out of college, you became a graphic designer, and that's how you
Um,
started your career.
well, actually, Um, so when I was doing, after the internship, they offered me a full-time job, which I accepted. And
Nice.
during that time, I went to the graphic design school, which is a 1 year school for adults that I teach in right now. And also during that time, I started taking a freelance job from international clients
Hmm.
and building sort of building my network among those. And during the university, I was freelancing as a graphic designer. So that was very convenient to me because I was able to do this while waiting for another class or even during quite a boring lecture. Um, so, this multitasking was very useful for me at that time. And actually, when I was approaching, I think, 21, I burnt out in graphic design, and since then I've never took it back as a full-time job. I've been on and off. I've been trying to get back to it, but it hit me so bad that I sort of just shivered when I had to do it again. And I started looking for a different path for myself.
Yeah, all right. Did you ever had a case of plagiarism of your work being copied, or feeling that your work was not being properly um, referred to?
Mm, well, there was one case, but I decided not to dig into that. There was also a case when when I created a design and the company I sold it to later on came back to me and said that they found a design that is nearly the same.
Mhm.
And they said that I committed plagiarism, which later on I was able to prove that this was my original work. And this is just, a statistically possible
It is, yeah.
coincidence.
I mean, there's only has many iterations of certain
Yeah.
geometric patterns, right? One of the hot topics of nowadays is Web3, not just the movement, but also in terms of the design aesthetics and also the opportunities it creates. It brings for designers as a way to co-create and find new value creation paths for their work. How do you see the Web3 movements into the design space? Do you think this is going to help create, new um, opportunities for designers? Do you think this is sustainable? And in terms of the actual aesthetics, I was, I've been, following at a distance, but I see the aesthetics to be very um idiosyncratic in a way, right? Because you look into that back in a way back to basics. It feels like Web3 design aesthetics has a little bit of web one, for those that remember,
Mhm.
like old people like me, back in the 1990s, and some of the design choices are coming back, are a little full of it has come back to the 90s. So what's your take on that?
Well, I think as most of regular people right now, I'm also just figuring out what the whole Web3 thing is and trying to navigate through this. I'm actually in the process of writing an article about it, and I've done an interview with a person who's really deep into that topic. Um, but it was more on a business side. So I think the reason why it looks like this aesthetically right now is that there's a big, this is what I'm observing, there's quite a big pressure on the designers to really get back to the roots of designing um and remember that they are designing for people, not for robots or machines. And this is also something I put a strong emphasis on for my students when I teach them the basics of design. That we need to, as designers, we need to always have people in mind and remember that we are doing it for them, and they have their set of emotions and their set of experiences that is going to impact the way they interact with project that we deliver to them. Um, and also, I think that right now, uh, Web3, the whole concept of Web3 is so complicated that a lot of people don't even see. I mean, I know a lot of people who don't really know what it is, how to connect it with anything they know already, what it will bring to their lives. And
Right.
this is something that most of new tech related solutions or products face at the beginning, that, you know, you create new technology, and if it's done right, the new technology should be created to solve real life problems, right? But sometimes you just create new technology by accident, and then you look where you can implement it. And so for it to pass through the chasm. The early adopters will always get on the new product, new tech, because they are like super geeky and they want everything new and they are testing. But it's the majority who decides on the success of the solution or the product.
Absolutely.
So for the majority to adapt to it, it needs to be simplified and sort of broken down into smaller, more approachable elements that they can associate with something they already know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in this, a lot of responsibility relies on UX designers to make the sort of the skeleton of the whole structure in Web3 so seamless, and the way we can move in there and the way we can interact with it so seamless that it feels nearly like Web2, but on steroids, just taken to another level without us needing to learn. So the transition should be smooth, and all of the jargon that is around Web3 right now, NFTs and all of that, very few people who are not into this topic know what that actually means.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that while designing, we should also be thinking about how to simplify it and break it down to make it more approachable and to increase the accessibility and usability of Web3 as a whole.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's and that's one of the reasons why you call yourself a storyteller. And telling stories is also about writing and making things easy for people to understand, memorable, and impactful in their lives, right? Or to their lives. So what do you actually mean when you define yourself with these terms as a storyteller?
Well, at the moment that I mentioned, when I burned out and I was trying to figure out a new path for myself, I realized that my two sort of main passions or two main directions of development in my career path, which is design and writing, are connected. Because in design, I've been the most passionate about brand development and brand identity development, and that connects to writing as well, because this is essentially telling a story, either through design or through words or both. This is telling a story, and I've also realized that people like stories and need stories, and this is an obvious thing since centuries that people have this need to tell stories. And the way we
to be told stories as well, right?
Yeah, to hear stories and
hear stories.
To sort of go into another world through emphasizing with the story. This is how it helps you get new ideas even, or relax. And the way we tell stories is obviously changing, and new tech is coming in as well in this area. And so I decided that storytelling is broad enough to accustom all of the fields that I'm interested in, but narrow enough that I know what to focus on, and I know which areas, which skills to improve, so that I can ensure that as world evolves, I can evolve too.
So one of the things that you have been doing is also teaching. And how are you using storytelling techniques to create connection with students or to storyfy your own classes?
A lot. All of my classes are basically me telling stories and bad jokes.
Okay, I would love to go to
while
your classes.
yeah, I mean, when I
Are you teaching in Polish or in
Polish
English? In Polish.
in Polish, yeah. So when I give
Bad
a piece
Polish
of
jokes. Okay, I would not
bad
understand that.
Polish jokes, no. um, so when I was saying that, when I give my students a piece of theory, I try to dress it up in a story, a real life story from my experience or experience from my friend designers, so that, you know, even if the theory is not too complex, they have a nearly hands-on experience immediately with how to use it or how it affects your work as a designer. I mean, the theory that they've just learned about.
Mhm.
So,
And yourself, you see yourself as more a minimalistic um, style designer.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's
For people that are not so much into design, what does being a minimalistic designer actually mean? If you can instruct us.
um well, it depends how one define minimalism, because it can be either aesthetics or the whole ideology, um a broader approach. And if it's aesthetics, then it's very individual. So for one person, minimalism might mean only white and black colors and very few decorative elements, and for the other person, minimalism means stripes, not flowery pattern. And so for me personally, it's been always about also telling a story for my design. And in design, very often the case is that if you limit the amount of visual expressions, visual tools in your project, and if you use only the absolutely necessary ones. So for example, if you are designing something with text, a layout, then only two colors are necessary, the one for background and the other one for typography. And same with an illustration. Two colors are the absolutely minimum amount of colors that you need for illustration to take place. And when you narrow it down so much, there's a room for additional meaning and some story to be told through the design, which would get lost in the richness and variety of visual expression, which is also good. But for myself personally, I preferred minimalist design also because I'm really bad with choosing colors and making color palettes. So it's just convenient.
Yeah, actually, we have like a comment here from Maciej Stakovic, and is saying that storytelling is the future of design. Brands are looking for connection with user. Lots of designers can design good looking stuff, but not memorable stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
You agree?
I definitely agree. Especially we can already see how much brands are trying to enter our everyday lives in not so obvious ways, not advertising. I mean, they go on social media and they create other kinds of values that are branded, but we don't necessarily understand it as advertisement. And so,
Like what, for example?
um, like, what's the example of this? I don't know if I can give a specific one, like out of top of my head. Sizing. I mean,
Maybe, yeah, that's fine. If you actually remember, I think you also have been working with the design studio Huku and Ku, or Uku Iku. And what have you actually been working with them? Is it also
uh,
design or the storytelling? Because they have been working with amazing brands like Ursa Major, Boom Supersonic, which are really very hot well, startups in case of Boom Supersonic, I guess they're still a startup because the product is still not being sold, at least to my knowledge. So what is actually the work that you have been developing with them?
It's also storytelling, but through text and through visuals. So I've been curating visual content and writing. I've been mostly writing articles and interviewing experts from different fields to sort of bring certain complex concepts closer to the community around the brand, for example, Web3 right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you want to check it out, we'll put the link of the medium here on, well, here on the chat of YouTube, and later also on the resources of the podcast. So one of the things that that maybe we can take away from this conversation is advice for anyone wanting to entering the design dash UX dash storytelling space. And I think one of the things we can agree is that this is merging into one space, right? Storytelling, brand equity, design, UX. It's pretty much being so much intertwined that it's harder and harder to see very specific differences, at least in terms of the way that it's getting to consumers. So what kind of advice would you have to someone that wants to get in, um, and think about that young 17, 18-year-old Justyna? Would you recommend doing kind of the same paths, going on this internship, gap year, or maybe a different formulation?
Mm-hmm. Well, so at first, I would say that I fully realize how overwhelming it seems at first when you sort of enter this world and look around and you're like, oh no, everyone is so experienced and doing such an amazing job, and this is so competitive that I can never get in. And well, to enter this world is not that hard, but to make your way up the ladder, it's obviously harder because it's very popular field and lots of people are doing this and lots of people are entering this area all the time. So what I would say is sort of identifying what is unique about you and what unique things you can bring into this world through your other interests, your aesthetics, your goals in design, because everyone has it. Everyone has a unique style, unique approach to designing, and this is something that can differentiate you from other designers. This is also something I tell to my students, that at first you might think that, okay, their graphics are so amazing because they have better software, they have better hardware than me, or they know better how to use the program. And this is something that's going to differentiate you from other designers for, I don't know, the first 3 years maybe, when you still learn how to use software and other than that. But after this, it's only going to become a tool. It's like driving a car. You don't necessarily think of what you're doing, but you're doing it. And what is differentiating you from different drivers is how you use rules on the road, right? If you drive your car economically or not, if you know how to do it. And so in design, when you get to the point of knowing well how to use the software that you use as a designer, the only thing that's going to differentiate you from other designers is your unique approach to design, your unique style.
Your
And
method.
it's good to know what is that. So what I would say is doing as much as you can before you enter this world. So if you're still in high school or you have another job and you're thinking of I forgot the English word for that, sort of reshaping your path into design, I would say start doing a side hustle, make design your side hustle and create, be it illustrations or layouts or web drafts, mobile app drafts, whatever it is that interests you. But try to dig into that and tap into that before you have the pressure of money, because once you start earning with your design, it's obviously amazing, but it's also pressure that it should be the quality for the value of money that you get for your design. And I'm also being asked by my students, like, what's the path that they should take if they want to be freelancers. And I would say that it's, in my opinion, it's best to start from an internship in a company, because then you learn what are the expectations of a designer, how to be professional, and you have the safe network to learn and to make mistakes, because you're on an internship and it's by default understood that you're going to make mistakes because you're only learning. But when you start doing your freelance job and you're working with a client, the room for mistakes is much, much smaller. And someone that you're working for is assuming that you're professional enough that you can deliver high quality work for the value of money that they give you back. So I would say create a very unique portfolio that is presenting your unique method, your unique approach, your unique vision on design, that is presenting your personality through it, especially when you don't have jobs or design examples from collaborations with clients. You can still build a very strong portfolio and then apply for internship, be it in the office or remote, where you can learn as much as you can and really dedicate your energy and time to squeezing as much as you can out of it. And then, or in the meantime, even better, start looking for freelance gigs or another job.
Very well. Thank you so much, Justyna. It was great having you with us.
Thank you for having me. It was a great pleasure.
Thanks. All right. So, guys, thank you for also joining our Productized podcast. If you enjoyed your stay with us, give us your review on Spotify podcasts or wherever you're listening to this, and share this episode with friends and colleagues. You also have show notes and more episodes at the productized.medium.com. That's our, that's our blog. You can also join our community, and we will be sharing the links in the chat here on YouTube or on the podcast description. Let me just tell you that this podcast was hosted by me, André Marquet. It was produced by Teresa Sigismundo, research by Katerina Shirzik, and sound editing by Miguel Souza. Maybe a special word to Teresa. She's actually leaving the company after some years with us. And it was really a pleasure to have had Teresa doing lots of the podcasts, lots of the shows, conference, master classes, boot camps. I think she has nailed it, every single piece of our experience. So Teresa, thank you so much for being with us. Do you want to go online? No. Okay, so that's it. This is it, guys. Thank you so much, Justyna, as well. Have a good time. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.